The Star Wars Battlefront 3 curse. This is something I am hearing a lot lately, especially in the past week or so, because we of course learned that EA stupidly said no to DICE when they pitched a Battlefront 3, which would have been a curse-breaking game. As many people know at the moment, Battlefront 3 is a game that just should happen, needs to happen, and everyone except the suits making the decisions seems to know it. And we all universally sit here and get angry at EA for not making Battlefront 3 a reality, but this started long before EA even got their hands on Star Wars games. But before we get into that, we do have a quick sponsor for today's video. This video is sponsored by Opera GX. Now, Opera GX is the world's first browser for gamers. So it's a tailor-made browser specifically for the gaming community, and this is easily one of the best products I've ever been able to work with since I've been running this channel. Now, a few things that make Opera GX so great starts with GX Control. Now, we know how many resources Chrome can use. Well, GX Control takes that hassle away, allowing for better performance whilst gaming with your browser opened, by allowing you to limit RAM and CPU usage to how you want it. Another feature is GX Corner, which allows you to stay up to date on free games, and I mean, you can't beat free. You can get the best deals, breaking game news, the newest releases in one accessible place as well. And Opera GX is also on mobile, and it can actually be connected to the desktop version, which is pretty cool. And you can also customize your browser with a bunch of particular themes, wallpapers, and colors to get the browser looking exactly how you want it to look. Now, you guys can get Opera GX for yourself through the link in the description. I do highly recommend it, guys. Like I said, this is one of the best products I have ever worked with. And of course, a big final thank you to Opera GX for sponsoring this video and supporting the channel. So in the mid to late 2000s, there was supposed to be a Battlefront 3 as well. It even went fairly far into development, getting as far as 99% complete according to some sources. It was also shrouded in a lot of secrecy. There was a lot of he said, she said nonsense, and ultimately it never got released. All we have are remnants of the game that never saw the light of day floating around on the internet, which showcased a very promising Battlefront game. But of course, here we are in 2021, and we now have two generations of Star Wars Battlefront games that have an elusive third installment, which would be the logical next step, but both generations just cannot seem to make this third installment a reality, hence a lot of people thinking that it's just a cursed title. Now, I have touched on this topic on the channel before, but that was about a year ago, and seeing as we know more about both generations of Battlefront 3 now, and there is now way more bewilderment and drama regarding this elusive title, I thought we'd take a look back at the curse of Battlefront 3, to the old LucasArts days in the groundbreaking third installment from the golden era of Star Wars games, to the current EA mishaps that are going on right now. So the Battlefront franchise is probably the most popular Star Wars game franchise of all time. Battlefront in 2004 was the one that kickstarted it all. Battlefront 2 in 2005 is for some people the best Star Wars game of all time. EA's reboot in 2015, Star Wars Battlefront, remains as just about the top selling Star Wars game of all time. And Battlefront 2 in 2017 is probably the most popular Battlefront game of all time, with one of the wildest video game stories yet. All four Battlefront games have been successful in their own way. All of them are money makers, yet in generations both new and old, there was only two titles. We never saw that third installment. Now, at face value, the Battlefront 3 that we didn't see in the LucasArts days is a little bit more forgiving, because it actually at least went into development. So the suits making the decisions back then at least had the common sense to greenlight the game. And we don't really have that here in the modern day. So let's jump in a time capsule and go back to 2005, when Pandemic's Battlefront 2 came out, an incredible game that came out just 1 year after its predecessor, and what a game it was. I'm sure it was a game that many of you watching have linked to your childhoods. It was a great game and still to this day delivered some of the best content available in a Star Wars game. But it was time for a Battlefront 3, a new Battlefront game that could take advantage of the next generation consoles. So secretly in 2006, Free Radical began development on a new Battlefront game that was going to soar the franchise to new heights, only capable on the next gen technology. A super ambitious game that was going to do things that we still haven't seen Battlefront games do today, such as seamless space to ground combat, which is something that fans have been asking for from this franchise for nearly 15 years. Picture it for a second, being on a ground phase, jumping into a starfighter, flying into the hangar of a Star Destroyer, whether that be in the atmosphere or in space, landing in it, getting out, and taking the fight into the interiors of the Star Destroyer. All of this seamless. That's the Battlefront dream. That's what fans have wanted for all of this time. Well, Free Radicals Battlefront 3, you could do that. That's the ambition this game had. It was unparalleled. This game was just going to have it all, but things started to go very, very wrong. And this is where the details and the facts of this game start to get a little bit convoluted. The story goes, in 2009, a former Free Radical employee spoke to Kotaku, and he pretty much spilled a ton of information on the game, saying that Free Radical had been working on a Battlefront 3 which was heavily in development, and apparently was 99% complete according to some sources when it was brought to an end. Because it seems that the game's ambitions may have contributed to its downfall, as the game supposedly ballooned over budget and Free Radical were failing to meet deadlines. So secretly in 2008, the game was cancelled. Now, like I said earlier, it is a lot of he said, she said with this game. One side says the game just ballooned over budget, so LucasArts just pulled the pin. One side says Free Radical were incompetent and missed their deadlines due to the scope of the game. I think the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle, to be honest. But regardless, this ended up being the start of the downfall for Free Radical, as after this they were overtaken by Crytek, and then by 2014 Free Radical would no longer exist entirely. But this is not where Battlefront 3's story ends, because LucasArts sent the remnants of Battlefront 3 to Rebellion Developments to salvage something from this game, and that is what happened. Remember that Star Wars Battlefront Elite Squadron game, the shallow handheld game? That is the remnants of Free Radical's Battlefront 3. That's what all this ambition and promise led to. And that is the story of the first Battlefront 3 that fans never got, and the start of the Battlefront 3 curse. But here we are in the current day, and the curse of Battlefront 3 has never been stronger than it is right now. As in the past week, we learned that a Battlefront 3 was pitched to EA from DICE, the creators of Battlefront 2015 and Battlefront 2, but EA geniusly said no. At least the original Battlefront 3 from the LucasArts days got off the ground, but in the modern day, EA won't even let that happen. Despite the fact that Battlefront 2015 is just about the best-selling Star Wars game ever, and Battlefront 2 was, despite reputation-ruining controversy, a success in terms of copies sold. And it of course came back to be immensely popular, one of the most popular games going around at its peak. And despite the fact that EA said that they were doubling down on Star Wars games and that they remain committed to making Star Wars games, they refuse to let Battlefront be a part of it, which makes no sense at all. Because the reason they won't do a Battlefront 3 is because of licensing costs, even though that's never been a problem in the past with the 4 Star Wars games they've made or the 2 games they currently have in development. It's an excuse that just holds no grounds, so naturally their commitment to the Star Wars IP has been questioned, and rightly so. Now, though we've only just learned about it, a lot has changed since then. Battlefield 2042 has launched terribly and is getting destroyed by critics and gamers, so maybe this might change EA's direction for the DICE studio. Maybe they'll jump back into Battlefront, who knows? I personally wouldn't hold my breath on it though, as it's obviously a good decision and the right thing for them to do, so they'll probably not do it. But in terms of a Battlefront 3 specifically, I don't think we will see one for at least 10 years. And why is that? Because I think the franchise will be rebooted under a new publisher and start all over again with a new studio when the Star Wars license opens up officially in 2023. The Battlefront franchise is the most popular Star Wars game franchise, and it can't sit on the sidelines for long. So I think someone else will come along and do what EA have had countless opportunities to do, and make a new Battlefront game, and then a new Battlefront franchise will be born and EA will be left to lick their wounds. That's what I think is going to happen, so I think the Battlefront 3 curse, I think it's going to continue for a little bit of time to come. So that is the Battlefront 3 curse in a nutshell, a mess of incompetence and bad decision making. So let me know down in those comments your thoughts on all of this, and if you did enjoy this video, drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And remember to check out Opera GX through the description below. And I'll catch you guys real soon.